What's up, Mike? How are you, man?
Doing good. Enjoying myself. Enjoying this life so far.
Nice. I saw your last name, and the last time I had Rob Gronkowski's brother scheduled for at one point, and then he no showed me, and then I was like, oh man, is this Drew Bledsoe's brother? And then is he gonna no show me?
Not his brother, and yeah, I'm
And you
here. I
didn't no
made it.
show me. We're
Yeah.
here. So, thanks for coming on, man. Tell me, you're in Austin right now. How is it in Austin? What's the climate like? Not the weather. What's the climate like in Austin currently?
Wow. It's funny. I'm very good at. I have so many friends in Austin. I'd say 20% of them are from Austin, and the rest are from California. And when I'm hanging out with my bubble, with my community, man, feels so good. Don't want
Right.
to be anywhere else. The community here is stellar, stellar. Um, just the community people I hang out with, and if I were to count them, they'd be in the thousands. It's one of those things. There's something happening all the time. I have to say no more than I say yes to really amazing events and to hang out with amazing people. Um, and then there's the other half of the city where there's a lot of homelessness here. There's the housing market's crazy here. I think it's crazy everywhere, but in Austin, it's exceptionally crazy.
Like
Uh,
to buy a house because it's way
Buy,
overpriced.
rent, anything, just to
Anything,
move
yeah.
here.
It's like that here too.
Hundreds of thousands of people are moving here in the next year.
Dude,
So
people are buying houses here. Uh cash,
yeah,
full over asking, sight unseen. And you're like,
yep,
huh?
yep.
For a
I don't know
million
where
dollars,
everyone's
for a
coming
million
from.
dollar house. Who has a million cash?
It's
Where are all these people?
Californians.
All right.
Californians owned a piece of a tech company.
Right, right.
It's all these engineers
Yeah,
screwing it
yeah.
up for the rest of us. Uh, so yeah, overall the climate's really good. It's a little confusing here because I can be with one group of people who are like super pro freedom, and then
Mm-hmm.
and the next thing I know, I'm walking into a restaurant where they're gonna try to shame me if I didn't walk in with a mask on or something. And so it's like there's a juxtaposition that exists here that I think creates a little bit of tension. Whereas when I was in Florida, it's a very the ideas and is a bit homogenized. Like everyone's that way. Or if you go to California, the ideas are a bit homogenized in another direction. And in Austin, it seems like this uh, there's this a lot of liberals and conservatives all existing in the same place.
Oh yes. And very conservative and very liberal is what what it tends to feel like from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah. Well, my group of friends are probably rare. Like I said, there's probably if I were to count them, a few thousand in Austin that all have like the same circle of friends. And
You have 1,000 actual friends, not just on Instagram?
um, I would say there's probably 1,000 people I would recognize at a party. I wouldn't remember their
Oh wow.
names, but
Okay,
I would
okay.
I would
Got it.
be like
Okay.
give
All right,
them
I
a
see what you're
head
saying.
nod. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
All
oh,
right.
I know you're with that
Yeah,
crew
yeah,
over
yeah.
there.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Makes sense.
Um, and I they probably share some similar ideas, but I would say like the people I hang out with is very, you know, uh, socially liberal, fiscally conservative, pro freedom, not a lot of as long as it's not oppressive. But we like to say I think it's good to approach the situation from we are the majority, even if that may not be true. Because I think you're right. People do tend to like completely just jump on the left bandwagon or the right bandwagon.
What is so? I mean, and I know this wasn't necessarily like it's not like what you do, and we'll get into all that in a second.
Sure.
What does pro freedom mean to you?
Pro freedom. You know what? I have the right to do whatever it is I want to do. It's a right, and as long as I don't impede on your rights, you don't. And so it's a very very simple thing. I'm a student of natural law and of sovereignty in a way, and and really living from a place of building up good karma in the world. I understand the cause and effect, and if I do good things will come back. But also, there's no reason for me to tell someone they can't do something, and I'm not going to try to punish them for doing something that I have an opinion that they shouldn't be doing when they're not harming anybody.
I'm just trying to argue a little bit. Just to push. Yeah, just to push back. But what if it is? What if it is harming? And you just think it's not harming, and like so. And all right. So for example, like let's use the COVID thing,
Sure.
right? Because that's what the big thing is now. I personally am vaccinated. I'm not scared of the vaccine. When I wasn't that scared of COVID, right?
Yeah.
Like I lived my life, and yeah, sure, I got the fucking vaccine. Do I care if you get the vaccine? No. Do I think you're silly a little bit if you're not? Yes. Do I think you should have to? No. Do I think you should have to wear a mask? No. But what if it does turn out? Let's just say and then this is just a hypothetical, right? That all the evidence points to, like the polio vaccine. You should really get the fucking polio vaccine. We all do that. We all have no fucking problem with it. We understand what it does. What if this vaccine turns out to be that? Just a hypothetical. What would make anyone believe that doesn't believe it already?
Well, first off, I'll say this is for there to be any legal recourse in order for someone to say you're harming or not harming. There's something that needs to be. There's two things that need to be present. One is material evidence that the harm was done. And then the other is that there's someone who has a standing in the matter. That means that there is somebody who was harmed and who is suing you.
Right.
So,
well, not suing you because you can't sue somebody for polio, right? Like when the polio vaccine came, right? Like there's you couldn't sue someone for not getting it.
Right. Well, exactly. And I think that like we're talking about trying to force people to get a vaccine. It's like by not getting it, can you show me material evidence that this even exists? For one, which from what I understand hasn't been necessarily been isolated as a virus. We're familiar with the symptoms, but the actual being able to, you can't throw a virus in an electron microscope and look at it. It doesn't work that way, but they act like it is. So there's no material evidence. This has actually been held up in court, and then you have to prove there was.
Are you trying to argue that COVID doesn't exist?
I don't think it exists in the way that it's portrayed by the media and the government. So it exists, but not in the way that it's made out to be.
Go ahead, explain that.
It's they present it as if there is a lot more material evidence than actually is. And for instance, the PCR test is a magnification process. So depending on how many times that you put PCR test
what do you
cycles.
I mean, what do you say to the 500, 600, some thousand people that are dead?
Well, that's statistical analysis. So those were counted, but those were people who had COVID who died in the last year and a half.
Right.
So if you tested positive and then you died, any time after that, you could be counted as a COVID death. And the hospitals were actually incentivized to count COVID deaths because they would get an additional $13,000 if they had a COVID patient versus if they had just a patient without COVID.
I mean, homie, I have 3 best friends that are in an ER and in an ICU, and my wife is a nurse practitioner, and she just quit her job. They definitely died of COVID, and she took care of them, and my friends did too. Like,
oh, yeah, people do die from the disease.
I mean, you're making an argument that it didn't exist.
But I'm not saying it didn't exist. What I'm saying is it doesn't exist in the way that people make it out to be, because I imagine there are people who are perfectly healthy that got the disease and they passed.
Oh yeah, sure.
They passed. Sure. And the real pandemic that I'm looking at right here is obesity, diabetes.
Oh, 100%. We won't disagree there.
This is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
like the early messaging around it was very frustrating, especially me coming from a health background, and they're saying that there's no amount of exercise or vitamin D or supplementation or good nutrition, it won't save you, is what the medical experts were saying. So the medical experts who are not health experts were giving health advice. And so like my big thing is like, let the health experts give health advice and let the medical experts give medical advice. And neither have really stayed in their lane in this case. But when I look at this, I go, well, 95% of the people who have passed from this had known comorbidities.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
So it's when I say it's not what it's made out to be, is what I'm saying is the virus exists, all that. Probably. They don't have material evidence of it necessarily, but they haven't isolated it and made it that much different than some other viruses. It's there are some of the symptoms are novel, but it's not. When they came out and said this is a novel virus, these are all the characteristics of this virus. They were listing off the characteristics of almost every lipid-based virus. So it's it exists. People have died from it. It's, in certain regions, there's definitely been, I've heard mixed things. Like I've heard from ER docs that are saying this is a real serious thing. And I've heard from ER docs that say, they're saying there's not enough, but there's plenty where I'm at. And so it's not, I think that the way it's also portrayed is that every ICU in the United States is full. And they might be in one hospital over here, but not in another. It's just, what I'm saying is the way it's portrayed is a lot more fear. They're portraying it to make you a lot more afraid than what you really should be. More people pass from overdosing on pharmaceutical drugs each year. It's the fourth leading cause of death is pharmaceutical drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's much
and
bigger.
We do work very hard at trying. We have been working very hard to try to fix that, right?
I don't think so. They're prescribing these pain-killing drugs.
I think it's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, way too high.
Way too high. Way too much. Look,
just,
my best friend passed off this, and now we have, you have fentanyl. Not that I agree with doing cocaine, but they're cutting cocaine with fentanyl, right?
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, that'll kill you.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah. I don't know why someone would do that, but
to make more cocaine.
Yeah, but you're going to kill your customers. That's not a very savvy drug dealer.
I
think there's something that,
who said a drug dealer is moral or smart, man?
I don't know. I think most drug dealers are street smart.
Yeah, but
the ones I've met,
if they need to sell, I don't know. I'm watching Queen of the South right now, man. And if you need to sell the drugs, you sell the fucking drugs. And then you worry about the next kilo next time.
I'm sure it depends on the quality of your drug dealer.
So, yeah.
Like any other industry.
Yes. Let's get into your industry a little bit. What is it that you do? Let me, what is it? What is the industry you're in? And we'll start there, and then how we got there and all like that.
So I primarily teach health and fitness coaches how to meet their clients at more of a psycho-emotional level.
Okay.
And then a lot of more personal development, more of that type of stuff. And I teach them how to run their business. So most coaches that come in, most health and fitness coaches go, I want to make a difference in the world. I want to help people. And they think, I'll get my certification or I'll get my degree in exercise science or kinesiology or something like that. And then I'll just have clients. And then most coaches, they end up, it ends up being the job in between, being a kid and getting the real job. It's like, I'm going to be a personal trainer. And it's like, you get a few years into it and realize you're not going to make any money. So a big thing of what I do is say, look, you can make it a career, but you're going to have to be better than the average trainer or coach out there. You can't just get the bare minimum certification and expect it to be a career. And so you have to be exceptional in the way that you communicate with your clients. You have to be exceptional in the way that you deliver and support them. And so, yeah, that's primarily what I do is I teach coaches and I coach them on how to get better at their job.
So how what made you go this route? Like what was your life like? First of all, how old are you?
I'm 39.
Okay. So the
So
same age. Yeah, I'm 41, same thing.
okay,
Um that's all the same thing, right? Like
it's
I break
close
it down
enough.
I break it down into 30-year chunks. 0 to 30, 30 to 60 and 60 and up. So 0 to 30 you're young, 30 to 60 you're middle-aged.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
I'll be 40 next month, and
all right.
I
You're 40.
realize I realize I'm gonna go. I can't be a kid anymore. Like
Yeah.
there's zero excuses. Once you're
When's
40, you're an
when's your
adult.
birthday?
You're a man.
When's your birthday?
October 10.
All right. So happy early birthday.
Thank you.
So how did you get into this? You know, what led you down this path? How did you get here?
Yeah, I was interested in health and fitness from like 13 years old.
Okay.
I was super nerdy. I like picked up herbal remedy books when I was 13. Like I was abnormal. And then I started weight training and all that stuff. And at about 15, I go in the US Navy for a while. I figured I'd get paid to work out there, which was kind of true some of the time. Um, and then getting out of the Navy, found out that wasn't for me. Getting out of the Navy, I went to school and got a degree in exercise sports science because it was really the only thing I cared about. So I got the degree, I got a handful of certifications, studied. I was very, very knowledgeable. And then I opened up the first CrossFit gym in Tennessee in 2007.
Okay.
So I opened up a CrossFit gym. I'm like, okay, I'm going to open up the gym doors and people are just going to show up. And they didn't. They didn't just show up. And I really suffered. I lived in my gym for a while. 8 months. I lived in a crawl space above my office in the gym. Couldn't, I remember not being able to, it being 2 days before rent's due for the building. And then just magically someone coming in and paying, their whole year in advance. And that was what got me by. So there's a lot of touch and go. And I was the only reason I could survive at one point is because I was collecting GI Bill because I was getting my master's at the time. And I go, man, I either got to get a job or I'm going to have to let go of the gym because school is suffering and this and that. And so I go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to quit school. I'm going to go full time on the gym. And you know what? I accept that I'm going to have to learn about business. And I started studying marketing and things like that after being open for over a year and just suffering. And then when I realized like so much of marketing was psychology, and then I started learning more, I go, oh, this doesn't just apply to marketing. This actually improves me as a coach. And then fast forward years and years and years, I ended up getting deeper into like studying leadership and all this stuff in order to run my company. So I ended up starting a podcast in 2012 called Barbell Shrugged, which was one of the most popular podcasts in fitness and nutrition on the internet for
You
a
still
good
do it?
5 years. I don't do it anymore. It's still going. So
Yeah.
I have an old business partner. He's still running it, and we put a new guy in there, and they're doing a great job. YouTube channel, all that stuff. So in 2012, I started that. So I had a couple gyms, and then I started that, and I ended up with a worldwide audience. And so with that worldwide audience, I go, oh, I'm going to create some training programs for people around the world. So I started creating training programs. And essentially, I ended up going to a lot of business conferences, a lot of leadership training, which was like very arduous. And then getting to where I had a business that was doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, and from training people online. So overhead was low, the profits were high. We were doing some things that were innovative in the market in 2013. 2014, there wasn't a lot of online training happening, not online training that was delivered well.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing a lot of things that still, it's like if you were to be doing these things that we started doing in 2013, 2014, you'd still be pretty cutting edge. You log into your membership site and you click a button, you get a whole breakdown video of how a movement works, plus a demo video, plus this. It was intricate.
Khalip is kind of doing it now with NC Fit.
Yep, he is. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely guys doing it now.
Right.
And so after I did that for a while, I got in the business of teaching other people how to do it. So I actually, what I found was, when I was working in my gym, I got a lot of satisfaction from training people to most satisfaction was getting someone off of like diabetic medication,
right,
or someone who making a really big difference in someone's life. And I always had like some CrossFit Games athletes hanging around in my space. I trained some, and it just wasn't as interesting to me. And then when I went online, I was getting more of the competitive people again. I just don't care about training athletes that much. So I personally got more attracted, which is crazy because I hated business my whole life up until even when I started studying it, I hated it.
I feel you. I hate business. I can't stand it.
And then I transitioned. I actually got to a point where I love business more than I love training people as athletes or even weight loss or anything like that. So I go, you know what? There's so many coaches that are really good at what they do. Some of them are very experienced, and they just don't know how to get clients. And they've got a poor relationship with money, which I had to work through a very poor relationship with money myself.
Explain that. What does that mean, a poor relationship with money, from your perspective?
Yeah. Well, a poor relationship with money would be like treating money like if we would act like money was a girl you were dating, and you called the girl as often as you paid attention to the money in your bank account, or you checked on her as much as you checked on your budgeting, or whatever it is. If you I have money dates now, so if you're afraid to check your bank account, if you spend everything you make,
I check that bitch every day.
Good. You're probably that's a good sign. So a lot of people avoid it, right?
Yeah,
and so they have a poor relationship with money. They don't know how to. They either hoard it or they can't hold on to it, and they're not really able to have this healthy relationship that's not too much or too little.
And because you have to spend it, right? That's a problem too, is that you don't spend it to then go make more money. You have to make your money work.
Yeah.
I have a rule with my kids. It's rule number 5. We make our money work for us. We don't work for our money.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
You can't, I mean, I'll be honest right now, I'm hoarding a little bit because I don't know what's going on. So I'm just kind of holding and waiting.
This is a good time to do that.
Yeah. So I'm definitely hoarding.
I'm hoarding crypto.
Okay.
So
we'll
see.
Yeah, but crypto's like this right now, bro. It's like boom, 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 boom. Holy fuck.
But with how much I put in and how much I'm holding.
Right. So you got in pretty early.
Yeah, I've got, I've seen 10x returns and shit. So
I got in right before the crash.
Yeah, it could get cut in half and right now, and I'd be like, oh yeah, people are freaking out. I go, oh, I'm still way up.
So you bought Ethereum when it was like $3.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I don't know if I wish I got it that cheap, but yeah, I did get everything a lot cheaper.
All right,
yeah,
so you bought Ethereum when it was 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like 150 maybe.
Yeah, good for you. I got Ethereum at 3,300, bro.
Nice.
No,
not nice.
Not nice.
It'll bounce back. That's the thing. It's still the beginning.
Yeah. Well, then I bought the dip twice. Don't worry. So, because that's what you have to do. You can't just shit. You can't sell. You buy the dip.
I think we're gonna see another dip, but overall, in the long term, it's gonna rise.
Yeah. We'll talk. Yeah.
I know they're wanting to.
So anyway, bad relationship with money. Most people have,
and poor relationship with wealth, because what you're getting at is money working for you. When you have money that's working for you, you're playing a different game. You're not you don't have a job anymore. The money's working for you. You're building wealth. You're in the business of building wealth. And
well, yeah, because you can't. One thing I really try hard not to do, and you tell me what you think about this. I try not to attach my dollar to my hour. Like
100%.
I won't teach a private lesson and have somebody pay me $200. Like fuck that.
Yeah.
Now I'll be like, wow, I could probably charge $500 and I could do 10 of them a day. But then I'm 10 hours on the mat.
That's a poor mentality.
Yeah.
To have exchanging dollars for hours. That's a I call it blue collar thinking.
Well,
And
it's not even blue collar because lawyers get stuck in this trap. Right,
totally, that's
because
true.
their dollar per hour is so fucking high. It's like $400. So everything
Yeah,
becomes about
there are
billable hours.
professionals. There are professionals that fall in that category, but
Right.
I call it that. I come from
I
blue
get it.
collar.
I get it. Yep.
And I go and when I look at blue collar people and I talk to them, and where I come from, this is it's the dollar per hour. What am I worth?
Right.
There's a conversation about what I'm worth, and that actually what you're worth as a human being dictating how much money you're getting paid. Like there's a lot of like self-worth issues tied up in how much money people make that really makes it messy, because most people's self-esteem, when you get down to the core of it's pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
And so their self-worth is low, and so they don't want to charge too much, and no matter how much education or experience they have a hard time charging what they really want to be charging, how much they really want to be making. And the other thing is looking at people's relationship to wealth is different. So like, how do you feel about wealthy people? Can you walk into a five-star restaurant and feel comfortable? Or when you walk in there, you get that feeling in your body like, oh, I don't really feel like I belong here.
I'll go the same way though. Can you walk and do a fucking dive and feel comfortable too?
Yeah.
Can a rich person, a wealthy
Yeah.
person walk into a dive? Because I think it's just as important on the other end too to be able to understand both ends of the spectrums there, right? Can you
Yeah.
or do you need 5-star service
Yeah.
to like
I'm
have
not
a good
I'm not
meal?
really I'm not really like, yeah, I agree with that, but I think those are different things. And I'm really like, all my focus is on helping people who have a relationship with money in a way that's not serving them. But yeah, like I have a lot of wealthy friends, and like I went to Burning Man. You're not getting five-star experiences at Burning. I mean,
No,
there is a
you're
version of
getting a
it,
much different experience.
but it's going to be arduous.
Right.
Even if you flew in and you had someone pull your trailer in for you and all that kind of stuff, it's not a five-star experience.
Sure.
But yeah, being able to go into the dive bar as a wealthy, like the guys I know that are really wealthy, we run around and do shit that's that you wouldn't think most wealthy people would be doing.
My friend puts it well. The difference between Aspen and Vail in Colorado is Vail is millionaires trying to act like billionaires, and Aspen is billionaires who know they're billionaires and are fine wearing fucking jeans and Wranglers and cowboy boots.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I understand. So what is it? How is it that you help these clients? Like what is it that you do for them? How do you really get them going? Like what are some of the steps? And you talked about personal growth a little bit. What are some of the steps you take people through?
Yeah, so the first thing that we do is we get them really clear on what it is they actually want. Most people, there's a conflict. They have an internal conflict about what they really desire, and just in what they desire in a single day. Like, what do you
Mm-hmm.
want? What do you want to get done today? What do you want to have for yourself today? And then if I ask someone, well, what do you want for yourself in 10 years? And people's brains fucking melt. And it's because we haven't been trained to think 10 years at a time. But the most successful people on the planet, they plan in decades, whereas the average person, the ordinary people plan in years, extraordinary people plan in decades. And so in order to plan in decades, it's a practice, it's a skill that needs to be developed just like anything else. So every 90 days, we are taking our clients into a practice of thinking in decades. So, and then getting very, very clear on it. There's a lot of personal stuff that comes up in that process. There's a lot of resistance that people have in that process. And we use a lot of coaching skills, both cognitive and emotional, to
So
help
when you say
people
we,
break
you
through
have
that.
a team of people,
Yeah, I have a team.
and
Yep.
you're the head of the team.
Yep. That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So what are some of the steps you take people through? Like, so I mean, so my company, we plan in decades too,
Yeah.
right? Like my martial arts schools. So,
Yep.
10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, and then all the way down to 90 days, right?
Exactly.
We call them rocks. I mean,
Yeah.
so do you use traction or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Traction had a big influence on me.
right,
It's a good system. Rockefeller Habits is
right.
another really good one.
Hmm.
So uh, we have them set that out, and that's just the first thing. That
Right.
like if we don't know this, then we don't know what we're doing.
I really like the 10-year thing, because I think what happens to a lot of people, and you tell me your perspective, is everyone sets like a New Year's resolution. But the New Year's resolution is like, it's not going anywhere. Like what is the, what do you want your life to be looking like? You got to be shooting to something grand and something fucking far. And I mean, you might not hit it,
Yeah.
but the journey is worth it.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I'll write all my goals up on the board. They're like, "Oh, well, what do you want to accomplish in 10 years?" And I'm like, "Well, here's all the things I want to accomplish." And there's, maybe 10 bullet points. And I go, "You know what though? I really don't even care about any of that. It's just something to that's where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
I will obsess over getting there, but I don't see it as important because I've lived long enough that I recognize that the really beautiful things are all the things that happen on the way to get there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's the
And
journey. It's the journey.
but if you don't pick a direction, you're just going to drift into somebody else's vision. So what's so hard about this for people is most people have never created their own vision for their life. And they've never created a strategy to support that vision. So that's the next thing we do is we go into strategy and go, what's our strategy for accomplishing this? Because most people, if you go to school, they go to school. That's someone else's vision and strategy. You got to graduate. That's someone else's vision. That's 5-year-olds don't think I want to graduate. And then the strategies put in place and the priorities are decided for you, because you've got vision, strategy, priorities, and then execution. These are the 4 steps to living, making your dreams come true. And most people don't even know that they didn't have their own dream. So first we got to get people to open their eyes at a possibility of having that dream, and then creating a strategy, which most people have never created a strategy that is unique to their own vision. They've only executed other people's strategies. So it can be there's so many programs that don't do those things that when people still they achieve success, but they're still not happy at the end of the day, because they do what I did, which was made a lot of money, had a successful business, but hated my life. And so we take them through that. Then we have them identify who it is that they're going to help. So most coaches are really, they just like in martial arts, for instance, you got your guys that just love Muay Thai,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all they want to coach, and that's all they want to do, and they're in love with that, and that's great. But usually, unless there's always that 1% that are gonna do really good. But even those, I would argue, do this instead of what most people do. I used to do MMA, so I know, I've met some guys that love Muay Thai. Other than that, they were dicks. They weren't they just weren't enjoyable to hang out with outside of class, all this stuff. And they always suffered. They didn't know why they couldn't get ahead. They didn't have as many clients, all this stuff. And so what I really encourage our coaches to do is to fall in love with your clients and fall in love with their needs. What is it that they desire when they walk in the door? Getting really present to, what do you want? And a woman coming in and going, well, I want to lose 10 pounds. I go, why does she want to lose those 10 pounds? At the end of the day, she's had 3 kids and maybe it's 20 pounds, and she just doesn't want her husband to leave her. She wants to feel safe. And so really, you may not get your client there, but understanding that that's where they're at without them having to explicitly say it, getting to know who your client is and get to know them better than they know themselves is what's going to allow you to get the results for your clients, because it always comes down to results. You want to know the truth. You want to know if you're good at what you do or not. What's the result? That's all it is.
Is the result always something so tangible?
No, the results are not always so tangible. However, I like to put very tangible results in association. So usually there's tangible results, and then there's intangible results that are associated with that.
Can I ask you a question? Like the example you just gave, like woman wanting to lose 10 pounds so her husband doesn't leave her. Wouldn't we want to build her self-confidence so that if she doesn't lose the 10 pounds, that she can go say fuck you to her husband? Because
absolutely.
Because if he would leave her over being 10 pounds too heavy, then she needs to fucking leave him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Like building up that confidence, having
Right.
that appropriate self-esteem.
Right.
But people don't want to buy that.
No,
Like,
for sure, for sure. You're
yeah,
saying to somebody, look, you're going to leave your husband when they're leaving you or your wife. They're like, no, man, I want to hold on. Like, I totally get it. But on your
yeah.
end, the long-term goal is this, like, yo, we're going to build your confidence.
Oh yeah. To me, like the fitness, health and fitness is basically a Trojan horse to, if someone wants to lose weight, I'm like, okay, I'll train, come on. I love you. I love you so much that I'm just going to accept you for where your mind is at right now.
Mm-hmm.
But then in 3 months, you're going to look at your life and go, wow, everything improved. My confidence is up, all this stuff. Oh, and I did lose the 10 pounds, or maybe I didn't, and I don't care anymore.
Right.
I have clients that come through my program that, they want to make $10,000 a month. And I go, great. They get the tools to do that. A lot of times at the end of the program, someone's not quite making what they thought they'd be making, but they're making a lot more than they were. But they go, you know what? I thought the money was more important than it actually is. I'm a lot happier, and I know what to do. It's just going to take me a little bit longer to make that money than I thought it was going to take me. So, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Money, I always like to see money sometimes as like, when in business, right? It's a KPI of a lot of other things, right? It's like, okay, but it's not the end all be all goal of like, okay, we got it.
Yeah.
Like, you got to stay open. You got to pay the bills. You got to fucking live. You want to live a certain life, 100%. But it's not.
I like to think about money as the oxygen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need it.
I don't breathe so I can get oxygen. I breathe so I can have this conversation, so I
Yeah.
can go swing some kettlebells.
Right.
That's why I'm breathing.
Right.
Yeah. So same thing with the money. It's like, yeah, we need money. We need to be smart with it, and there needs to be a flow of it. But it needs to be there for the purpose of serving something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Man, as we start to wrap the conversation, first of all, I want to say something super important that I think is important. I wholeheartedly disagree with you on what you said about COVID, and that's okay. And I think we have to be able to wholeheartedly disagree and then move on and get past things. I think this is one of the biggest problems that we have going on in the world is like for me to go like, you know what, man, I don't agree with you. We're done.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of that going on.
Yeah. The cancel culture is getting out of control
on both sides, right? On both sides. Like it is just, it's atrocious to me in the sense of if I don't agree with you on a topic, then we cannot then continue a conversation.
Yeah. I'm curious what you disagree about. I didn't think there was a disagreement.
I think COVID definitely exists.
I didn't say it didn't.
Okay. Then maybe that's just what I was hearing. It definitely.
Yeah, I wanted to clear that up because
okay.
I think there was I didn't feel
okay.
a disagreement.
Yeah, go ahead, clear it up.
I imagine people heard a disagreement.
Okay.
Because that's what I'm witnessing a lot of. Is there's what I said was there's the way that it's being portrayed is incorrect. And there's what I said was there's not this material evidence hasn't been produced, but I'm not saying that it's not real. I'm just saying that the way it's being portrayed is inaccurate.
I would say that we have no honest dialogue going on from anybody about about what's going on. I would also say that we have a lot of people trying to be, I don't think, for example, that you and I can read CDC data. Okay. I think that's very hard. Hold on. Maybe you can. I can't. Like, I can read it, but I don't know what it actually means. It's like somebody coming in and telling me about an armbar that has white belt-ish experience. So that's how I feel about this. Like, and we're in this day and age, right? Like, you can find a lot of fucking evidence about a flat earth, and that motherfucker is not flat, bro. This motherfucker is not flat. But you can find scientists and you can find all this shit. So we're in a very weird time of living where it's almost too much information.
That's the new skill.
Right.
So the new skill to develop is to be able to make sense. There's a lack of sense making right now. And so people cling to, that's why they cling to a site, is because they're trying to
Right.
cling, they're clinging to a meaning of something. But I think that if you believe you can grok the data, then you can grok the data. If you believe that you can't grok the data, then
When you say grok,
you'll
what does that mean?
to understand, to be able to take in all the information and then make like good sense of it for yourself. So there's, I know you want to, we're going a little long, but
Yeah,
like
it's okay. We're
there's a
not
book.
long. I just like to start to
Oh,
wrap it,
okay.
and then we're good. No,
Does
we're
this?
good because it allows, when I say start to wrap, it allows for it to keep going if we need to. We're
Yeah,
good.
there's a book by a guy named Robert Cialdini
Okay.
who studies human behavior and marketing, and yeah, influenced by Robert Cialdini. And one thing he talks about is anytime a human being becomes confused, doesn't feel like they can make sense of the situation, they immediately turn to who they perceive to be the authority to be.
Right. Right.
And so it's a white lab coat, you know, it's an MD,
Well,
it's a
right now it's our media.
yeah, well, you know, it's the government, the authorities. I'm sure some people view people who are on media as authorities, but like it's usually like whoever the government endorses as the authority, because people tend to view government as the ultimate authority, especially if you know they're not spiritual. Then they're gonna they're gonna do that. So like anytime anyone feels as though they cannot make sense of a situation or comprehend the data, they immediately just go and listen to the authority that they give credibility to. So, so that's so when I was listening to that, I go, wow, the things in which I'm an expert in, I don't really like in health and fitness. There's very few people I listen to, but like I'm even with a grain of salt with them, and I'm parsing out the data myself and all this kind of stuff. And I can make sense of it for myself because I believe I can, because I've been doing it for so long. But when it comes to my car, for instance, I take it in, I'm like, I don't know, whatever the mechanic fucking said, that's, you know, I give into their authority. So I think it's good just to recognize that. And one of the things that I've taken on when all this started happening, I go, you know what? It's going to be painful. It's going to be difficult. It'll probably be depressing, but I choose to try to grok this. And so when I go and look at I go, I'm going to look at the data, even though I don't want to go look at the data. I don't want to look at different opinions. I would much rather just listen to certain people, then I'd be fine. So what, there's no way, because there's no way that we can know everything about everything. So we have to make choices about
Who we're
what
going
am
to listen to.
what am
Like,
I going what am I going to be an expert in,
right.
and then how do I choose the authorities in my life?
Yes, that's a very difficult thing right now.
Yeah, and so what I encourage people to do, and so that was the question I started asking myself a year and a half ago, was how do I choose who I listen to? And I decided that I'm going to look at their track records. So if if their track record is of health and healing and well-being, and an exemplary, if they're an example of that, then I'll listen. If they have a track record of dead bodies in their past, then I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna question that heavily. And even with statistics, I've studied stats, so statistics aren't that foreign to me. But a lot of the stats have been fudged. A lot of this, like, there's a lot of fuckery that's happened, that it also, when people start changing stories and changing stats and all this stuff, then they also lose credibility in my mind. So there's um yeah, just, to me, it's, I encourage people is to think critically, really be aware of like what you're deciding. I'd say half my friends got the
So,
vaccine, the other half haven't. I personally don't care either way whether
right.
someone got it or not. It's just uh, I get it on both sides, because I see both arguments for to get it, and I see arguments not to get it. I bet it's, you know, not dangerous, so it doesn't seem to be dangerous. It also doesn't seem to be super effective either. So
Well, I think it's
um,
still, so I mean, I guess that's where I'll disagree with you. is it seems to be doing its job of the vaccinated are not dying. We can get it still,
Well,
but
if you look at Israel, so Israel is the most vaccinated nation in the world. They made it.
yes.
They made it mandatory for everybody.
Right. So then people are going to die 100% because everyone's vaccinated. But if you
Well,
look at
they're having a spike right now.
right, but it's not like it was. But if you look at America, where you have some yes and some no, when I say not dying, of course people are still going to die, right? Because it's just stats, right? We understand that.
America is in a worse situation
Then
than any country in the world, and because we have the highest rate of diabetes and obesity, so we have the most comorbidities. Also, the highest rates of depression.
Depression.
Depression is like 27%. You're like 27% like more likely to pass if you came in with depression or anxiety. I think anxiety. Sorry, not depression. It's anxiety.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Anxiety's a bitch, man. Look, I have very bad. I experience very bad anxiety. When my health starts to go, yeah, like the anxiety just roam, you know.
Yeah.
Like it just.
Well,
It's like,
yeah. I think the anxiety you can get it in a vicious cycle and a bad
you can't
feedback
get away
loop.
from it. Yeah, you
Yeah, you
can't
get
get away from it.
anxiety. It makes you more sick because you're sick. You're getting more anxious.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So there's, you add that in with the fear porn on TV. You get sick and then start watching the fear porn, and then it's like, you're. I think
I'm assuming you're calling the fear porn the news.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Me too. I tell my mom she watches porn and she doesn't like to agree with me. She's like, no, I don't. I'm like, you just watch a different kind of porn, mom. Like,
Yeah.
And I don't care which channel you're watching. It's just fucking porn.
Yeah.
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 So
you're getting off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. So my question is, you and I don't know each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we didn't know each other before.
This is our first conversation.
Yeah, this is our first conversation. I always wonder what makes people say yes, right? Because like I hate to tell you, I hope you weren't expecting any major results from coming on this podcast of like of like Instagram followers or fame, because I'm not going to bring it to you, right? Like I'm not Rogan, I'm not Tim Ferriss or any of these major platform guys. So why would you say yes to taking your hour and hanging out?
You know what? It's partly intuition.
Okay.
And the other thing is if I have room in my schedule and someone wants to do a show, I normally say yes because I do care about the results of doing a show. Like if I were to get a client out of this conversation or whatever, but the result that I'm looking for the most is being able to sharpen my conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I really love the skill of communication and getting into a conversation that's recorded, especially with somebody I don't know.
Right.
And I have no idea what your opinions are on things and vice versa. And so like we jump in and I'm like, oh, like, Elliot brought something up that I wasn't thinking about before. Or
I wasn't thinking about it either.
He questioned me in a way. I'm like, man, you know what? Like, it's like maybe I don't know. And so what I'll do when I leave the show is I'll pull out my notebook and go, okay, how do I need to like improve my conversation, my communication? So, man, I think that I love podcasting. It's been a huge piece of my personal development.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, recording your ideas in public for everyone to hear, it's scary because especially like in a time like now where there's cancel culture, is like, yeah, man, you got to be like, it's a courageous thing to state an opinion.
Because they don't have to listen to the whole thing. They can go take a soundbite of what you said.
Totally.
And then
I'm
go
sure
from
like
there.
the first 5 minutes of this show, some people probably, they may tune out.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or even when you were talking about the husband leaving the wife or whatever, and then I said, man, and then I came back with saying, yeah, your husband leaves your wife because you gained 10 pounds. Like, man, you can snippet that and make me look like a total piece of shit, right? Like somebody could do that. So it's fucking risky. It's real risky,
Yeah. Well, I think people are getting hip to that too. Not everybody, but like this especially the younger generation. Like I think that's why it's hard to believe anything we see online. These videos can be forged so easily. Like it's hard to believe anything. And I think I think it's going to create a situation where people kind of become a little more tribal and get into smaller groups, because if I can't see, touch, and everything myself, like like the virus, for instance, like I have to believe that it's all just on these papers. They're written about. There's people, and there's disagreement, and it's like, okay, so it's just like, what do I believe? And it's like, I think a lot of people are just going to stop believing anything and become much more basic in their
It just gets
approach.
very hard, right? You know, getting back to things like the virus and climate change, like these scientific things, like it's fucking hard, man. And
Well, what do you think about scientism?
I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Go ahead, scientism.
Scientism is it's like turning science into religion. Like, most people don't understand science, but what they do is they end up listening to, they identify certain scientists that are made like priests,
Right.
As a priest would be made in a religion,
Right.
and then
So I
they
think
just it's
science's job is to always fucking try to prove itself wrong.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, but
That's what we're doing. So I think the problem that we get into, um, it is when some of the things that we're early on in, you know, like, okay, the science says this, and but we have a very small data set, right? And then it changes, and then they go, well, you said this, but now you're saying this, and like people have a really hard fucking time with that, you know. And in the day and age of media where we are now, where the only thing that matters is first, correct doesn't matter. That when you come out and go, well, I think this right now, it's very hard to change your mind if later on, when you have a data of 100,000 and then you have a data of 1,000,000, and it can switch in there, right? You flip a coin 100,000 times, you literally might end up 999, right? Like it's possible. And then
yeah,
by the end of 1,000,000, you're at 500,000 and 500,000, which
yeah,
is way off. But we don't give room for that right now. And also, we have this my team is right. You
yeah,
know, so I'm a science person. Well, what does that mean? If you really are a science person, you are open to the evidence switching,
yeah.
which is science's job. I don't believe people really understand the job of science.
I agree. The other thing is, I know a lot of scientists, and uh, I had this opinion pre-COVID, but
Mm-hmm.
before all this, my opinion about science was it's very limiting. It's very narrow in its view, for one, and then also most scientists, their ego is very much wrapped up in their early findings, and they actually there's this problem in science that once you have a certain amount of a type of data, uh, even suggesting that you're going to do a study that might discount that gets shot down a lot.
Yeah,
There's
but so
these
how are you
review
supposed to
boards.
know anything if we're not going to believe what a peer-reviewed study would say?
Well, I think the peer-reviewed study has a lot of value, and so like that. My second point being that people just don't realize how narrow the view of science is, how much it's not saying, and it's not explaining because of this,
Yeah,
and
but hold
it's
on.
what it.
I'm gonna push back for a second. So you train people, right?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, in
Well,
the
you
past
have,
I
right?
did. Yeah,
You can train somebody, right?
absolutely.
You have the knowledge and the ability to train somebody and get them the results they want.
Hmm.
Where did that come from? It came from science, knowing how the body works.
Yeah, yeah. I'm using my senses to
Now you're doing more than your
interpret.
senses, right? Like we know calories in, calories out. We know some calorie things, right? We know a certain type of exercise. We know
Sure.
that we know about energy systems,
Oh, you're
right?
talking
And
about that side. Yeah, I'm
like
saying
that shit's true. Like
that's just
it's
true,
yeah,
and it's only part of the story. So there's like, if you don't understand the so many, this is actually the issue with a lot of coaches. They think that it's energy systems, HRV, uh, macros, or whatever it is, but they're not in touch with the emotional component of
of
what's
course.
happening,
Of
and
course.
those energetics, which have a huge impact. Which
But
there's
how do we know that they have a huge impact?
well, that's the thing, is that only happens from you being your own scientist, which is using your own senses to pick up on this and then collecting the data and making sense of it for yourself.
Right.
The
Data.
only,
Right.
the only,
Data.
yeah, and we're
Yeah.
all collecting data all the time.
Of
Everyone's a
course.
scientist in a way. Some
In a
people,
way.
you know,
For their own life.
yeah, their way of interpretation may be, you know, may need some help. They may need to clear out some baggage in order to interpret the data properly. But a lot of the way I train people has very little to do with what I learned in school. I actually don't look at those papers much anymore because one of the reasons I got to where I was because I was so scientifically driven. If it wasn't in a peer-reviewed research paper, or there wasn't a meta-analysis of 1,000 research papers on it, I didn't think there was any value in it. And then I just watched. I go, well, there's nothing else to learn. I'm bumping up against the ceiling here. And when I started looking at more of like the spiritual side, the emotional side, the psychological side of things, which I used to think were silly, then I started seeing incredible amount of progress made.
Right, but you
And
still have to. My point would be that you still have to follow the science, right? Because if you have someone that says, "Yo, I want to have a 300-pound squat," you go, "Fuck yeah, amazing." You can emotional that shit all you want. They can't run long distance and never lift weights.
oh yeah, of course, but that you don't even need to know science to know that. Like you don't have to. There's no study that created that. There's studies that support that. What I would say in that case, what most people are going to do is put you on a 2 or 3 day a week squat
Right.
training system, right? I personally now, like, I wouldn't do that. I would have put someone squatting 2 or 3 days a week if I wanted someone to get to a 300-pound squat as fast as possible. What I would do now is probably I have them squat once a week, and then we would do a bunch of other shit, and we would work on the emotional stuff and the
Of course.
psychological stuff and all that. Does the person who's going to squat 300 pounds and only focus on that get there faster? They may get there a little faster, but they're going to end up getting hurt. They're not going to be, there's going to be all sorts of other problems that come up.
Sure.
But like, what I'm saying is, like, science is not, and scientism is thinking that it's putting it on this pedestal the same way a lot of religious people put a religion on a pedestal, and that it is the only way. It's got all the answers. And the nature of science in itself is to isolate, not to integrate. So it continually isolates, and every study it produces more questions than it answers.
And
That's the nature of it.
I think that's its job, right? I think that's definitely its job. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I
So
think
that
we get into trouble though when we don't start with some universal truths, you know, because
oh yeah,
there are some universal truths,
you've
you
got
know.
to start with and understand that what a postulate is, and the postulate's the first piece of the formula. And a lot of people forget what the postulate is. That is everything else that's based off of this one piece of data. And a
Mhm.
lot of times in science, that one piece of data changes, but everything that was based off of it is seen as set in stone. For instance, uh, Newtonian physics compared to Einstein. Einstein came along and it just made Newtonian physics like, you go, oh, it's this is a more advanced. Newton wasn't quite right. Einstein's more right. All this stuff, and yet so many things in our culture are based off of Newtonian physics, and it just takes a very long time for these tides to change when a postulate changes, when that initial study or that initial idea changes.
Einstein just went further though, if I understand, right? Like, I mean, Newton's three laws are still the three laws.
There's I'm not remembering which one, but there's basically one of those things where um Einstein and was
So
it
this is
energy
my
or
point of where we get in trouble, right? This is right where we get in trouble. Of you're not an expert at this, and I'm not an expert at this.
right.
Because if you asked me to tell you about an armbar, right, about this thing with armbar, I would go, no, boom, 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 boom. This is what the fuck it is, because I know jujitsu that goddamn well. I can sleep it. I can be on my deathbed vomiting and be like, no, 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 right? So this is where we get in trouble. Is like you and I both know what the three laws kind of say, right? And we both know
Yeah.
we both know E equals MC squared, and we're not stupid. But then we start to talk about it, and we're not experts. Like,
Yeah,
you got to
and
be a
maybe I
fucking
use a poor
expert.
analogy.
Yeah.
But I do know what a postulate is, and I
Right.
understand how
Yeah, for
science
sure. No,
works.
no,
So
100%.
it's yeah, maybe I shouldn't use that. I definitely shouldn't use that analogy because you're right. I can't go deep
You
into
can't,
it.
yeah, I can't go deep enough. I have a friend, bro. Look, I have a friend who reads conspiracy theories all the fucking time. This is all he fucking does. Right? And then I have another friend who is he's like a super geek, smart, PhD, and this is all he fucking does with his life. And my one friend and I, who's the conspiracy theorist, we get to a point and then I go, okay, I can't keep up with you. Your words are too big and blah, blah, blah. And I really wanted these two dudes to meet. And then we hung out for a weekend, like we had a fight trip and we hung out for a weekend. And my really, really smart friend goes, who really, he goes, no, dude, those two words, those are complete oxymorons, and you just put them right next to each other. And I get it. 99% of the people have no fucking clue what you're saying. I do. You're wrong. Get the fuck away from me. If you're right. And I think
Yeah,
this is a big problem. I
yeah,
do think this is a very big problem. It's because there are really smart dudes in the world, and we do need to listen to them.
yeah. Well, the one thing I go back to this all the time, which is just what are the results?
Mm-hmm.
So if that person's results, if they're if you look at their life, if you look at their work, what are the results of that? And then that's a good person to listen to.
I agree. So, all right, man. There's one last question I like to ask people. See, I told you the wrap up is very long. Um, I believe everyone in the world has a unique power, something that makes them amazing. Okay, and it might not make you a lot of money, it might not make you famous or any of that shit. What do you think your power is?
Um, Connecting people.
Okay.
Yeah, really, really. I'm very good at being able to walk into a room and be friends with just about everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and then finding what's in common with different people and loving it.
Got it. All
Yeah.
right. All right, man. Well, guys, thank you. First of all, Mike, thanks for coming on. Tell everyone where they can reach out to you if they want to connect with you, work with you, whatever it is.
Mike_Bledsoe on Instagram. And then, yeah, if you want to check out what we're doing with coaches, thestrongcoach.com.
thestrongcoach.com. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Again, I really I enjoy conversations when I don't agree with everybody. Like, and I think we need to get better at having them. I think we need to stick in them, and I think they're very important in the world. And it's not like that you're going to hang up with this conversation and be like, man, Elliot disagreed with me on that or didn't, blah, blah, blah. And he's a fucking piece of shit asshole, which is what we do, right? Which is what we're doing, right? Like, if you don't agree with me on 100% of the shit, then I suck as a human. And
Yeah.
that doesn't have to be true.
It sounds boring too.
Yeah. All I like to do, look, man, I'll say it. My mom is way out on the left. And then I have a friend who's way out on the right. And I love to argue with both of them. I like to argue the right to my mom and the left to my friend. And I don't even know if I agree with either one of the things I'm fucking arguing. I just like to fucking discuss.
You're the devil's advocate.
I don't even know if I'm the devil's advocate. I just like to meet in the middle somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so anyway, I appreciate it. Guys, as always, don't go out in the world and try to be Mike. Don't go out in the world and try to be me. You go out there and you find your own power.